rolling.
Just a couple words there, test our mics, Mr.
Testing,
DA.
testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. You got a white?
Yeah, we're good for that.
Yeah, throw one up there.
Yeah,
All right, I'll quick double check it here. Wanna make sure the right color there.
All right.
All right, agree.
It's good. It's St. Patty's week around the Flynn world.
It
In the
always
Flynn
be
world,
green.
it's all week.
All year.
All right. I'll talk about the shootings.
Okay.
Let me just first talk about marijuana here. All right. So it is my understanding that there are a number of bills that are percolating down in Albany right now. It's also my understanding that the legislators want to get out of there by March 31st. So I anticipate a on-time budget this year. Due to COVID, they just want to get out of town. And so I anticipate that there is a very good likelihood, again, don't quote me 100% here because I'm not down here obviously. There is a very good likelihood that marijuana legislation is going to be done by the end of the month. With that said, I am an individual who learns from my past mistakes. And I think that one of my mistakes was that going back 2 years from now, I wasn't as adamant as I should have been about the bail and the discovery reforms that were percolating in Albany back in 2019. And I wasn't personally as forceful as maybe I needed to be. And so, like I said, I recognize my faults. And this time around, I'm going to be a little more forceful here. I'm kind of in the same situation here that I was 2 years ago. In the well, I'm in a little bit of situation different here because 2 years ago I was for, in general, like bail reform, in the sense that I was for with a capital F, in the sense that I recognized the need to fundamentally change the system. And I agreed with that need, okay? I'm not really for, with a capital F, marijuana legalization, okay? I'm not against it, all right? I don't think the world's gonna end. So, but I'm not like, really for it, okay? I do recognize, though, that the marijuana laws that have been in the books for the past 50 plus years, okay, those laws have disproportionately affected people of color over the past 50 years. I agree with that. I recognize that, and that's why I'm not against marijuana legislation here, okay, because that needs to be changed. And I will, quite frankly, forcefully argue and defend that against anyone who wants to challenge me on that. So anyone who wants to say that marijuana laws have not disproportionately affected people of color over the past 50 years, I will challenge you and I will have a debate with you all day long on that, okay? So with that said, my association as well, the District Attorney's Association of the State of New York, is also not coming out against the marijuana legislation. And we are one, if not the only one, of law enforcement organizations, law enforcement associations that are not strongly coming out against the law. Every other law enforcement association, I shouldn't say every other, but the overwhelming majority of law enforcement associations, law enforcement organizations, on top of numerous health organizations, numerous children organizations, are all coming out against the overall legislation. The DA's Association is not. So that should speak volumes right there, that we are being open to discussion here. We are not coming out against it. I am personally not coming out against it. So again, that should speak volumes in Albany. That should hopefully give us the goodwill that you will listen to us now and you will take our concerns to heart. They didn't listen to us on bail. Quite frankly, they didn't even allow us to be at the big boy table on Thanksgiving Day. We were at the kiddie table, okay? I'm hopeful now we can be at the big girl table, okay, on Thanksgiving Day now. And we can be there and they will listen to us and have a discussion with us because we are not coming out against the legislation. And me personally am not coming out against legislation. But I'm gonna be equally as forceful on one aspect of this, and that is the public safety of our roads. There are two provisions in the marijuana legislation that is before the Assembly and Senate right now that are extremely problematic. Number one is this. Right now on the books, if an individual is charged with driving while under the influence of drugs, that is a misdemeanor. They want to make it a violation. They want to lower it from a misdemeanor to a violation, just for marijuana, not for cocaine and fentanyl and all that. So here's a distinction. On the current bill right now, if you are driving under the influence of drugs, cocaine, heroin, it'll still be a misdemeanor, all right? But if you are driving under the influence of marijuana, okay, that will no longer be a crime. That is being reduced from a misdemeanor to a violation, all right? That is maybe the worst decision I've ever heard in my life, okay? If that passes, all right? That is ridiculous, okay? Think of the message that sends. I have a handful of cases right now in my office where people have been driving under the influence of marijuana and they've killed someone, and they've seriously injured someone. I'm prosecuting them right now. There is no way it can go to a violation. Now, here's the second aspect of this, okay, which makes it even more problematic. What they also are going to do by legalizing marijuana is that they're going to now take marijuana off of the controlled substance list. All right, so follow me here. Right now, if you are driving under the influence of drugs, I have to prove it's one of the drugs that is on the controlled substance list, all right? If they take marijuana off that list, now I can't even prosecute it, period. So it really doesn't matter, if you think about it, it really doesn't matter, quite frankly, if it goes down from a misdemeanor to a violation, because the reality is, if they take it off that list, and I can't identify it as a known drug that's on the list, the bottom line is, I can't even prosecute it at all. So, if you are going to take away the ability of law enforcement to arrest and to prosecute those who are driving under the influence of marijuana, you're going to have problems on our roadways. I'm telling you right now. And here's what is ironic about this whole thing, is that we know definitively right now, we know the problems that states are having across this country who have legalized marijuana. You ask any governor of Colorado, California, any governor of any state that has legalized marijuana, and you ask them, what is the number one concern that you have? What's the number one problem that you are facing because of the legalization? They're all going to tell you public safety on our roads. Everyone is going to tell you that, okay? So we know what the problems are in Oregon, California, Colorado, Vermont. Every state that's legalized this, we can sit here now on March 18th, before this is passed, and know what our number one problem is. Why would we continue that or create that in New York? What sense does that make? We know a problem. Let's fix it. And the way to fix it is twofold. One, you keep marijuana a misdemeanor for driving, okay? And you don't take it off the list. Or if you take it off the list, okay, that's fine. You want to legalize marijuana, you want to take it off the controlled substance list, okay, I get that, because, you know, for possession and whatnot, all right? All right, take it off the list. What you need to do then, though, is that you just need to add a provision in the statute that says that you can still prosecute marijuana or the effects of marijuana as a crime under the Vehicle and Traffic Law, Section 1192. That's all you gotta do. You gotta add it in one blurb like that down at the bottom of the statute, okay, and you're covered. All right? It's simple. And I'm hopeful that Albany will listen to this. Because this is gonna create a major problem on our roadways, and it's gonna create a major problem for the safety of our citizens because of what I believe is gonna be an increase in the number of people who are gonna be driving under the influence of marijuana. Now, the second part of this is that we should also learn from our mistakes. And obviously, one of the mistakes that Albany made with the bail reform and the discovery reform is that they did not fund it. They didn't allocate any money for it, which has created numerous unintended consequences. We need funding in this bill, in this marijuana bill. We need funding in the sense that three aspects. One, we need funding for research. We have over 100 years of research that has been done right now on the effects of alcohol on people when they're driving. We need that same money to research the effects of individuals driving under the influence of marijuana. So research funding is number one. Number two is, we have very few police officers here in Erie County that are experts in detecting someone who is driving under the influence of drugs. They're called DREs, Drug Recognition Experts. We have suburban police departments in this county that have none, that don't have any DREs qualified at all. We need funding to get these officers the training they need to qualify as DREs. That's number two. And number three is, we obviously need money for public education. We need money to get into the schools to tell kids, hey, just because it's legalized, it's not good for you, okay? I mean, smoking weed and having smoke go into your lungs is not good for your lungs, okay? We can all agree on that, right? Okay, so we need to tell kids this is not good for you, okay? So we need money for a public education campaign to get the message out there that even though it's legalized, it's not good for you. So those three aspects need money and they need funding. And again, hopefully they will learn from their mistakes and they will allocate money funding for such. So I'll close out with this. Then I'll take questions on this, and then I'll get to the shootings. Every one of you and everyone in Erie County needs to ask their officials who they've sent to Albany one question. And that question is this. You know right now that in every state that's legalized marijuana, the safety of the roads is the number one problem. Why are you going to make the roads of Erie County and New York State not safe with those two provisions that I've articulated here right now? Why would you do that? Every official in Albany who has anything to do with drafting this legislation needs to be asked that question. And I'll be curious as what their answer is.
Any questions?
Have you had a chance to reach out to these lawmakers?
I have. I'm not gonna name them by name, but I've spoke to numerous lawmakers about this. I've articulated my concerns. As you know, I mean, you might not know, Mike, I am the second vice president of the state association. Our association has spoken to leaders across the state, from not just Buffalo, but all across the state. Our president, who's a DA of Monroe County, has been very vocal on this. She has talked to the governor's staff, she has sent letters to the governor's staff, she has talked to assembly members, senators. They got the message. They know the message, and now they just need to make sure that they don't create a problem here. I'm telling you, I can tell you right now, we're already gonna have a problem with increased roadway marijuana drivers. It's gonna happen. It's happening in every state. It's not gonna not happen in New York, okay? Now, Mike, the problem is though, is that here, what I think the problem is, partly the problem is that, you know, Albany is dominated by New York City, let's be honest. And, you know, New York City, you know, a lot of people take public transportation. And, you know, I'm not saying that they don't care about the safety of the roads in New York City, okay? But they don't care about the safety of the roads probably to the extent that we do, because they live in a different world, all right? So, yeah, if you're taking the subway to work and taking buses to work, okay, you're taking public transportation, all right? Hey, you know, it's not a big deal, all right? But it's a big deal upstate.
But I guess among local lawmakers,
Yes.
and I know you're not gonna name any names on it, but
Yeah.
would you, since Democrats in Albany have the control of
Yeah.
basically however this is gonna happen, have the local Democrats said, okay, John, you know, we'll take what you say and we will, you know, add these provisions to it?
Yeah.
Have you gotten it from the local Democrats?
Yeah, no, I have got, thank you, John, I hear what you're saying, we're looking into it. That's what I've gotten so far.
So you're not convinced that it's?
I'm not convinced.
Okay.
I'm not convinced. So, I'm extremely happy that they have listened to me. I'm extremely happy that they have taken in what I've said, okay? So they've been very receptive to what I've said. They've been very cordial with me, obviously, and very, like I said, receptive is a perfect word here. They've been very receptive to what I've had to say. But, after that, I've gotten, okay, no, we're gonna work on this and look into it. Okay?
Could you talk about how this compares to laws regarding driving while impaired by alcohol?
Okay, they're all misdemeanors. All right, so they're.
So like straight up .08 is a misdemeanor?
Absolutely.
So it potentially it would be lower than drunk driving?
Yes. So they are going to, right now, driving under the influence of marijuana and driving under the influence of alcohol, okay, are equal charges under the law. They're both misdemeanors, okay? Right now, in the current bill, they want to now lower the marijuana to a violation. That's the bottom line effect of what they want to do.
How would that affect prosecuting someone who, say, injured or killed someone in a crash, though? Would that
Well,
add to it, or make it harder, or?
Yeah, well, again, they're probably not gonna make any changes to that, to be fair here, okay? They're, you know, if I can prove that someone was under the influence of a drug, okay, and they killed someone or hurt someone, okay, I'm still gonna have, certain felony charges where I can go against, okay? What's gonna perhaps make it more difficult is that if driving under the influence of marijuana is not crime, okay, it's only a violation, then I may be more limited in what my menu is for charges that I can charge. That's one potential unintended consequence. I can still charge reckless driving, okay? So I can still, there are vehicular manslaughter charges where if someone's recklessly driving, okay, just reckless in general, okay, I can still charge a vehicular manslaughter. So I would have to prove, though, that the person was driving recklessly. So again, it'll make it a little more difficult, obviously. Here's a big unintended consequence here, all right? And again, they may be doing this on purpose, because they don't like the fact that police can search vehicles based upon the smell of marijuana, okay? So they could be getting cute here and doing it on purpose. What this is gonna do, if marijuana, if driving under the influence of marijuana is no longer a crime, therefore, a police officer is now gonna not have the probable cause that a crime occurred if they smell marijuana in a car in order to search the car. That's what's gonna happen here, okay? Now, a lot of people don't like that rule, okay? You know, the mayor has told his BPD, don't search vehicles based upon the smell of marijuana, okay? All right? That's a bad directive, just so you know, okay? I disagree with that, all right? The New York State Supreme Court allows you to do that, okay? I want that done, quite frankly. But again, I don't control BPD, the mayor does, and it's his prerogative, and I respect that. Disagree with it, but I respect it. Now, it's gonna be a moot point, because you're not gonna be able to do it, all right? You're not gonna be able to search a vehicle now based upon a smell of marijuana, because you no longer have probable cause that a crime occurred, i.e. the driving while under the marijuana, and therefore, you're not gonna be able to search a car. Do you realize, this is a good segue, do you realize how many guns I find in cars, illegal guns I find in cars because of the smell of marijuana? Hundreds a year. Just massive amounts of illegal guns that I'm taking off the street now, okay, because of searching a vehicle for the smell of marijuana. I find guns in cars, I find other hard drugs, cocaine, fentanyl, heroin, that I'm now getting off the streets now, okay, because of my ability to search the vehicle from a traffic stop when marijuana is smelled, all right? And I'm be able to no longer do it, okay? Now, go on your way. It's gonna happen. Here's when they're gonna freak out. People are gonna freak out when the officer says, okay, I can't search, I can't do anything about it, go on your way. And they drive up the road and they hit and kill someone because they're high. Then people are gonna freak out. But here's what I'm telling you, okay? Let's not wait for that to happen, okay? Let's freak out right now, okay? I'm freaking out right now, okay? I don't wanna wait until someone gets killed by a driver who's high, okay? Let's freak out right now.
I'm curious to get your thoughts on this topic. I know you mentioned the DREs and their ability to see if somebody is high behind the
Yes,
wheel.
yes.
But we don't have the technology like a breathalyzer
But we
to
don't.
determine that.
We don't.
If there was the technology that says, okay, we can determine how high somebody is behind the wheel,
Yeah.
how much of a game
I-
changer would that be for you?
I want that patent, man. That's what I want, man. That's what I'm doing. I leave here. I'm gonna go work on that patent and become a millionaire. Okay, that's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want.
But in all actuality, like, how
Oh,
much
no,
would
no,
that
yeah.
impact?
That would be huge, obviously. That would, you know, it's gonna happen. Like someday, someone's gonna create it. Okay, I mean, they're working on it right now. Quite frankly, all right, they're working on it now. You know, once all the smart people who created the vaccine for COVID now, if they now focus their efforts on that, all right, they're gonna create that next. All right, so they're gonna create a test where you can blow or whatever to get a read on marijuana. That would be huge. Okay, but again, that's still not gonna help me out here, okay, if this law is passed and marijuana is not a crime, okay? I mean, it's not gonna help me out. You know, but if they don't change the two things that, you know, if they say to themselves, you know what, the DA's Association and the DAs across the state are being reasonable with us. They're not coming out against the legislation. They're not screaming bloody murder. This is the end of the world, okay? Which we're not, okay? We're being reasonable here, all right? If they recognize that and they say, all right, you're being reasonable, Flynn, DAs, you're being reasonable, we'll be reasonable too, and we'll keep marijuana as a crime, okay? That's what I'm hoping happens here. I'm hoping everyone can be reasonable.
This legislation, you can't smoke while driving, right? I mean, you can't. That would not be allowed, right?
Well, again.
Or does that
it-
kind of take it off the? I mean,
well,
you can't drink a beer while you're driving.
Correct. Again, well, it depends on how the law is written, okay? I mean, it depends on how the law will be written, okay? If marijuana is illegal, okay, and you're smoking it while driving, okay, it's the equivalent of drinking a cup of coffee then. So it could be okay to drive. If they well, they're still gonna make it a violation.
Okay.
So no, so
so it's not coffee.
It'd be a speeding ticket.
Okay.
It'd be a speeding ticket. It'd be a cell phone ticket, okay? All right? You know, it'd be that. Unless a good defense lawyer, well, I'll put defense lawyer hat on here. Unless a good defense lawyer said that because marijuana is off of the controlled substance list, all right, and is no longer illegal at all, okay, therefore you can't prosecute then any aspect of marijuana, all right? I'm gonna argue that therefore you can smoke marijuana while you're driving it. A defense lawyer could make that argument.
But there's still going to be limits, right? Obviously, it's going to be highly regulated. You can't have. There's a certain amount you can have.
We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. Again, we gotta wait for the bill to come out.
Is there any state that's done it in a way that you think works? Or are they all, everyone?
No, yeah, every other state. I mean, again, it obviously hasn't worked in the sense that, like I told Mike here, you're gonna see an increase in driving while on the use of marijuana, okay? That's gonna happen, okay? We all gotta come to that realization right now. It's gonna happen no matter what, all right? With the legalization of it. What the difference between New York State, though, and other states, 45 other states, okay? New York is only one of 5 states that says that in order to prosecute for driving while on the influence of drugs, you specifically have to I have to prove specifically that you were driving while under the influence of the listed drugs on the controlled substance list, okay? New York is only one of 5 states that mandates that, okay? Every 45 other states don't have that rule where you gotta specifically identify which drug it is. The other states have a much broader definition where they basically say that if you are driving under the influence of any substance that impairs your ability to drive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then you're guilty of the offense. So that's what we need to do here, okay? If you're gonna take marijuana off of the controlled substance list, then we need language that says, we need a broader definition of what a drug is in New York State. A drug just can't be what's listed here. A drug has to be defined as any substance that impairs your ability to drive, to hand-eye coordination, however you want to word it, okay? And make the definition much broader, okay? Every state has that. I should say every. 45 states have that. We're one of 5 that don't. So that's got to be corrected.
But could you then instead just have something specific about cannabis?
Yes. Or you can do it that way. Or you can say that you could expand the definition and say any substance that impairs your ability to drive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or you can say even though marijuana is off the list as a controlled substance, it is still on the list for driving.
Like alcohol. Right.
You can do it that way. Yeah.
Any other questions on marijuana?
Marijuana? All right. So again, segue into the aspect that, if I can't search vehicles because of smell of marijuana, you're gonna have a lot more guns on the streets of Buffalo. I can tell you that right now. And the question we all gotta ask ourselves is, do we want more guns, illegal guns, on the streets of Buffalo? So, let me give you some stats here that are troubling. Let's start with 2020 versus 2019. In the city of Buffalo, in 2019, there were 153 shooting incidents that involved injury. In 2020, there were 300. It went up 96% from 2019. In 2019, there were 183 shooting victims in the city of Buffalo. In 2020, there were 358. Went up 95.6%. In 2019, there were 37 homicides in the city of Buffalo by shootings. In 2020, it was 47. It went up 27%. Now that's the difference between 19 and 20. Now let's talk this year. Year-to-date 2021. Year-to-date 2020, again, which went up 100%, okay? In 2020, at this time, there were 18 shooting incidents involving injury. Year-to-date this year, 45. It went up 150%. Shooting victims, there were 20 year-to-date in 2020. In 2021 so far, 53. Went up 165%. There were 5 homicides by shootings year-to-date 2020. In 2019, 12. Went up 170%. So we've gone up 170% in shootings and homicides over 2020, which 2020 went over 100% from 2019. So if I can't search vehicles based upon a smell of marijuana, and I have more guns now, illegal weapons that are on the streets of Buffalo, okay, that again, let's get back to my original comment here, all right? I recognize that marijuana laws disproportionately affect people of color. They disproportionately affect the east side of Buffalo and the west side of Buffalo. Who do you think is affected by these shootings? The east and west side of Buffalo. No one's getting shot and killed in my neighborhood in Tonawanda, thank God. No one's getting shot and killed in Amherst or Clarence or Aurora or Elma, okay? People are getting shot and killed in communities of color here in Buffalo. Mothers are losing their sons. Sisters are losing their brothers to murders and shootings in our communities here in the city of Buffalo. That's who's being disproportionately affected in this community. So, disproportionately affected by marijuana, disproportionately affected by dying and getting killed by gunfire. How do we balance that out? That's a question our community's got to answer.
Any other questions
Anything else?
on gun violence?
Anything else, Maki? Good?
No, that's good.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yep.